Why should we care? Why should we care that 783 million people all around the world don't have access to clean water? Why should we care that, because of this, 6 to 8 million people die annually? If you are not one of the people facing these immense struggles, then why should you care about it? Disregarding human compassion, of course. Maybe you should care because by the year 2025, half of the world's population will be living in water-stressed areas. So how will you feel when you have to walk miles every day just to reach a water source that if you saw today, you wouldn't even want to touch? When the small amount of water you have to drink daily to survive is contaminated with feces. When this is you. When this is your friends, your family. When this is your world. I'm Carlina Lindsay.
And I'm Leia Haley. We may be high schoolers, but we are just as or more passionate, capable, and understanding than many adults and public figures. Because we care, even if they don't.
There are many different opinions on the topic of climate change. Skeptics use alternative facts to back up their claim. Those who don't believe may give examples like colder weather in certain areas. But what these people don't realize is that they're just talking about weather, not overall climate. There was a survey based on a telephone interview of a random sample of 3,022 adults living in the US. They were each asked if they believe in climate change, and if not, what they think is actually occurring.
33% believe climate change is not real because it is still cold. 18% think that the temperature varies naturally. 12% said that there is conflicting or insufficient scientific evidence. 5% believe that the news reports and research about climate change are false. 4% have other personal experiences. Another 4% have their own scientific theory. 11% believe that there is no reason for climate change or have another explanation. 11% do not know or refuse to answer, and 2% believe that God is in control.
The second most common response was that temperatures are not rising due to human action, but instead are shifting as part of a huge natural cycle. The problem with this belief is that there is plenty of evidence that shows humans are directly impacting global temperatures. Although there are natural changes that do apply to climate change, most of it is caused by humans emitting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Each day when humans burn coal, oil, and gas, fossil fuels, to generate electricity and power cars, we are emitting CO2 in the atmosphere where it then traps heat.
An additional issue is deforestation. When trees are burnt or clear-cut, it emits greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Deforestation accounts for 18% of all greenhouse gas emissions. If greenhouse gases are affecting us today, just imagine what it will be like in the future. Weather will continue to increase in temperature, ice will continue to melt, oceans will become more acidic, and much more. All of this will affect our food supply, our water resources, our ecosystems, our infrastructure, and even our own health. Just because you don't think that some of these things are an issue where you live, the world is entirely interconnected. In the past, if a society fell, the societies surrounding it weren't affected. But today, each country is somehow reliant on another. When something happens somewhere else, it affects our stocks, our economy, and our trade. If we continue to emit greenhouse gases the way that we are, it will mean the destruction of our Earth.
Many politicians in our government and our world leaders who hold the most power do not believe in climate change. Their positions on this topic are largely influenced by big corporations like oil companies backing them up. They stand to make a profit out of our world's deterioration. Now, since this is the case, how do we convince them the dangerous effect we have on the environment? Because without their help, we do not have the power to improve drastic change.
Some may ignore the many facts about climate change because they think that this is just another doomsday prediction that will turn out to be false. It is true that in the past, many scientific predictions have been proven wrong, but just as many or more have been proven right. Think of it like a fire. When there's a fire, well, what do? You probably try to put out that fire, but you also call the fire department. If the fire department gets there and the fire has already been put out, nobody's going to get mad at you for calling the fire department. That's what they're there for. Just because you haven't had some fires in a couple of years or they turning out to be false alarms doesn't mean you're going to get rid of your town's fire department. Because then what happens when there's an actual fire and you have no one to call? Well, you're probably going to wish you would have been okay with having a few false alarms if it meant being there when there was an actual fire. In fact, you can see by the low frequency of false alarms that homeowners are actually too cautious and wait too long to call the fire department, resulting in them losing their homes. So wouldn't you rather have a few false alarms if it meant saving your home, your world? Also, part of the reason that many of them turn out to be false alarms in the first place is because people took action and put out the fires before they became a huge problem. The same thing goes for environmental problems. If we take the appropriate measures to stop an issue before it becomes an issue, then yeah, it's probably going to look like it wasn't that big of a deal, but that's only because we did something about it.
The people who do not believe in climate change are not the only ones contributing to the issue. So many people in this world know about climate change, but do nothing to help. That is the problem among us. Since individually we think our small contributions will change nothing, we decide to leave it to the rest of the world. Now, you may be thinking we're asking for a change to happen overnight, but no, we know it takes years and years of passing down our techniques to future generations. But we have to start somewhere, and the time is now. We need to start rightly managing our counties, countries, and our world. There are two simple approaches to managing a society, bottom-up and top-down. Bottom-up operation is when a community comes together as a whole to make a decision. This is useful in smaller areas. Top-down is when a government or higher authority makes decisions for the entire community. This is useful in a larger scale. Taking Sonoma County as an example, we all need to band together to make decisions that are right for our community and ultimately the world. If we all change the way we transport, use energy, recycle, we can push along a progression to a clean earth.
But this isn't good enough. We can't stop there. Our government and governments all around the world need to recognize the threat that climate change poses and use top-down management to make hard decisions for the future of our planet and species. They need to regulate manufacturing and the harmful emissions from factories that are going into our environment. But always remember that everyone can make a difference and don't wait for everyone else to do it.
You may not be faced by the horrors facing our world today, but we, the future, see that the issue of water, pollution, climate change, deforestation, lack of biodiversity, natural resource depletion, poverty, and hunger are not only a problem today, but if nothing is done, have the power to be the demise of the human race and our home. So the real question is, why shouldn't we care?